So our next speaker is, come up here, Katie. Katie Golden. She is a professional patient writer and patient advocate. 6 years ago, Katie experienced a migraine that has never gone away. Forced to leave her career, she turned to writing to find purpose. Katie is a staff writer for Migraine.com and recently launched her own blog, Graine. She is a member of the American Headache and Migraine Alliance, National Headache Foundation, and a proud ambassador for the U.S. Pain Foundation. Katie advocates for fellow patients through her participation in Headache on the Hill and raises awareness and funds through Miles for Migraine. Katie works hard to live a fulfilled life with chronic migraine and pain and aims to inspire others to do the same. Please welcome Katie Golden. She talks to us, Migraine in America, You're Not Alone.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Katie Golden. First, while we're getting this set up, I do want to say that I am the biggest proponent of sharing what Dr. Young has written about how to frame and how to talk about migraine. I personally like to say I'm having a migraine attack. I think it just really kind of gives more emphasis. But he's fantastic, and I can't believe I have to go after him. And so, but thank you all for staying until the end. I really want to talk about how you're not alone, and I really think that all of us today have felt that. Just a little quick snippet. If you don't know about Migraine.com, we started in 2010. I began writing for them in 2013. We have about 137,000 Facebook followers. Hi. I know that there are people who Facebook messaged today and said they were going to watch, so hi everybody on Facebook. And just alone in February, this past February, we had 430,000 unique hits on our site. So I just wanted to emphasize the fact that we're a large community, but there are ways in which you can contribute and get information, and we also try to answer a lot of your questions. But really, I would say we're an online community where people can, with migraine disease, can find information, resources, connect with others, share their stories, and then we have staff writers who talk about their own personal experiences, and you can, have dialogue with us as well. But our mission is really to meet people where they are in their journey. Some people here today may have just been diagnosed, or maybe they've had it for years and didn't really know what it was. And so we definitely have articles and conversations about that, while there's others like me who are chronic, and so we try to cater to the wide range and definitely a no judgment zone. So today, I think it's just so cool that we are, and I just messed that up. There we go. Okay. Today we're all here in person, which I'm sure a lot of you have felt. I know I feel like we don't get to do this very often. It's so nice to have a conversation with a perfect stranger who you don't have to apologize for anything. Earlier, I'm not gonna lie, I've had a gnarly headache most of the day, and I had to go down to the quiet room, which was fantastic, and now I'm a little more energized and pepped up, but I didn't have to explain to anybody or apologize or feel guilty. And I just hope that you found that your feelings and your struggles have been validated throughout the day. And so I want to share with you, Migraine.com for the past 5 years has done a study called Migraine in America. And this past year we had 39,000 individuals who answered a 145-question survey, which was very, very helpful. And I hope to share with you how those stats are going to help you maybe feel like you're not alone or you're not crazy. So we're going to go and talk about diagnosis and how others who are dealing with the same thing have really feel about diagnosis and treatments and triggers, how it affects their work in school and stigma as well. So one of the first questions that I thought that was very interesting was, how old were you when you had your first migraine symptom? Some of you might not know that, when you were 6 and you had this symptom, that it was migraine, and you weren't actually diagnosed or realized it until you were later in life. But the average survey respondent were about 19 years old when they experienced their first symptom, or 19 or younger. I personally had my first migraine attack when I was 5, and then you'll see that there are some other little blips there, which is around age 25, age 30, 35, and 40 is when it also tends to spike when people have their first symptoms occur. At age 30, I went from being episodic to chronic, and if you don't, if it hasn't been covered, chronic means that you have 15 or more migraines a month, and now I'm 35, another blip on there, and I still have them, but hopefully one day I won't. But I try to work hard to do what I can to really manage my life. So in this survey, I wanted to, somehow that didn't come out very right. I wanted to show the difference between how many people who responded were episodic, which was 41%, and 59% were chronic. But in the actual migraine population, there are between 36 and 39 million Americans who have migraine, and 4 million of those are chronic. So it's actually about 11% of the migraine population experience chronic migraine. So the survey was skewed a little bit more to those who had chronic migraine. These are also some just data points that I thought you might be able to relate to. A fourth of the respondents identified a specific event or incident related to the start of their migraine. I personally remember vividly getting an aura at age 5 when I was about to go to my best friend Sarah's birthday party. And then I have the plane there because I became chronic a day after a big trip to California and coming back home to DC. And I could tell you the date, and that's the day that I got a migraine, and it has not stopped. But another stat is how many people here have been to the ER? Yeah, that's it's not a fun place to be. It's not a place you want to be. It's the worst place to be when you have a migraine. 42% said that they have been to the ER for an attack, and I think it's probably more so in this room. 6 out of 10 people are unhappy with their current treatment plan. How many of you are unhappy with your treatment plan? I feel like I have a really great treatment plan, but I always do feel like there's other things to try, whether that's medication changes, or I personally like to integrate yoga, mindfulness. I think for me personally, I feel like there needs to be a good balance. So I'm really excited that today that those things were covered as well. How many people know what their triggers are? Yeah, so I was actually surprised. I mean, there's so many triggers that you don't really have much control over. There's the weather, there's lighting. Thank you for having the lights dim. Perfume or cologne, you can't really predict if you're out and about that somebody's going to have that, and that could trigger for you. Sleep, you can manage a little bit more. I have a horrible sleep hygiene. It's something I work on all the time. And then stress, obviously. So not all of these things can be avoided at all times. But I actually say that now that I've become chronic, I can't identify my triggers. We'll just say the fact that I'm alive and I'm breathing is pretty much why I have migraine. Somebody mentioned just a minute ago about yawning being in the prodrome phase of a migraine, which can happen a day, 2 days before you actually get the attack and the head pain. And so I really want to share this because I think some people don't recognize or don't realize that, oh yeah, I do experience that, but that's not just me. Literally last night I had a comment on one of my articles about aphasia, and aphasia is really when you can't put a sentence together, when you're having a really hard time finding words, and she said, her quote was that she was so excited that she now had a name for this. And she's like, oh, I don't belong in the loony bin now. And my response to her was like, no, you don't belong in the loony bin, but if that is true, then I belong there too, because you know what happens. So I just want to run down these real quick. Clumsiness, I'm a natural, I'm not very graceful, so I don't know that that's really a migraine thing. I think that's just me. Anger and irritability. I remember when I was chronic and starting to work, or trying to still work, I would get really mad at my boss, and he was like a father figure to me, and he'd be like, "You don't feel well," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, sorry." Excess yawning, as somebody mentioned. Allodynia, as Dr. Goldstein mentioned, her necklace, that, you know, that was going to be a trigger for her because her skin, you know, just any kind of touch, she was very sensitive to. Memory loss, there are definitely times where people have been like, "Oh yeah, we talked about that like last week. If I didn't write it down, might not have remembered." Tinnitus is the ringing in the ears. A lot of people get that. Excessive going to the bathroom. Sometimes I'll go to the bathroom, you know, 7 times in an hour, and I'm like, that's not normal. So I know something's coming on, and I'm not pregnant, so that's really not normal. Hallucinations. So I'll try to do this quickly. Hallucinations can be olfactory, things that you smell that aren't really there. I sometimes, this doesn't happen very often, but if I smell cigarette smoke and I turn to somebody, I'm like, "Who's smoking?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh." Or the smell of garbage is another one for me, or other people have said like the smell of rubber burning. Yeah, other hallucinations, you know, hallucinations is a very strong word, but it's kind of the medical term for some of those, you know, things that occur that we can't really explain. Restless leg, I personally have, in the past year and a half, experienced restless leg, and I had no idea that the two were connected or can be connected. Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know about this, and obviously you can go on migraine.com and look for more information, but it's kind of a symptom where you feel like you are either really, really small or you are really, really big in this tiny room. Like I would feel like a giant and all of you guys are ant size. And that is something that I have experienced. It's not a high population, but it's something maybe you want to research a little bit more. Maybe you've had that feeling. Another one is metallic taste. Actually some medications give you that, but it can also just be another symptom of migraine. And then hot ears, I wrote this one down because I've had that recently, and I'd never really thought that they were related. So how has migraine impacted your life? 93% said that it's impacted their ability to work. Again, I became chronic. I tried to work for 2 years. I had to stop and went on disability, and then found migraine.com, which I can write for whenever I have time, when I feel well. But it was not an easy transition, and I had to find a purpose. And I think, you know, we talked about acceptance and grieving in some of those things. So I won't belabor that point, but I think it is something that probably a lot of us have dealt with. 89% it said that it affects their relationship with their spouse, significant other. I have an amazing boyfriend who we started dating, and 10 months into it, I became chronic, and 7 years later, he still comes to doctor's appointments and researches, and I'm very, very lucky, but it can also drive people apart, as I'm sure some of you have felt that. 87% said it affected their ability to attend school or college. I was in my second semester getting my MBA at Georgetown when I became chronic, had to drop out of that. And 86% says it affects their relationship with their children. I don't have children, and I can't imagine how hard it can be to, you know, to parent and have, you know, even just one migraine a month, or, you know, two a year. I commend the people who can do that, who do that, who power through that. I'm not going to really, you know, Dr. Young really talked about the stigma, and I think that we all feel it, we all know it, and, you know, people are worried about disappointing, they feel guilty, and some even say they hide. I was in a discussion group, and we made a suggestion about people hiding their migraines from others and saying, well, you know, let's say you're in a meeting that's really, really important, and you're in there and you know you have to be there, and but you're not fully there. And, you know, it's okay to say that, hey, I'm not at my best. Can you repeat that? I'm having a migraine. You know, that's all your comfort level. But I do want to say that, you know, that's something that you should consider, you know, just being upfront with people. And because so many people have it, most likely somebody else in the room either has migraine or knows somebody who does and can also kind of commiserate and, you know, maybe make accommodations for you. Before I go to the next slide, feel free to shout out. If you could describe migraine in one word, what would it be? Hell. Death? Dread. Torture. Excruciating. So in our survey, this is a word cloud. Hell and debilitating were the top ones that people said. I say that it's life-changing. The torture's on here as well. So, you know, hopefully that validated your feelings as well. So just trying to wrap up here today, we're all together, whether you're a patient or a caregiver, and we have the support. And I think throughout the day, we've all kind of gotten closer and opened up. But what happens tomorrow when, you know, a lot of the times we feel alone and isolated and frustrated and judged. But one question that the survey didn't ask is, now that you know that you're not alone, maybe you've learned some things about the disease, maybe feel empowered to do something, to be part of advocacy. What are you going to do with this information? And so I have just some ideas, and you know, obviously everybody's going to process it in their own way, but I really do hope that you walk away from this saying, you know, oh hey, I did this and that was great, but now what? You know, I hope you find a purpose. So, you know, join an online community support group, migraine.com. Share data with your family. I find that's like a really great thing when you know, if you have people in your life who don't quite get it, if you give them a third-party viewpoint and say, you know, I feel exactly the same way, it can really help that person to kind of understand. Maybe you want to research new treatments and schedule a doctor's appointment. Maybe try to find a headache specialist near you. Get involved in advocacy. Sign up for Miles for Migraine. I did it last year for the first time. My entire life goal, I've always wanted to run a 5K, and I'm not an athletic person. And I did it, and I was really excited, and I'm not going to tell you what my time was. But I did come in 5 minutes under what I thought, and I ran the whole thing. So I was pretty excited about that. Again, in one of the discussion groups I was in, they talked about starting your own support group, because it is so wonderful to meet face-to-face. Think about doing that. Maybe you need to learn about your company's disability policy. I say that just because I went through that progression. I'm not saying that everybody's going to go through that, but you should be aware of what your options are if things get worse or there just comes a time when you just can't do it anymore. Maybe you just want to share one thing that you learned today and share it on Facebook. I mean, that's huge. You know, that's part of educating, and so that's a way you can get involved. Tell a friend about your migraine disease. You know, maybe you're not telling people, maybe they don't know, or maybe they don't really get it. The other thing is, I really recognize, because I have such a great support system, that you can just thank the persons in your life who take care of you, who support you, who love you, who become frustrated with you. Yeah, you know, whatever your ideas are, big or small. As Shirley mentioned, my kind of motto for life, now that this is my life, I try really hard to live a fulfilled life with chronic migraine and pain. And so the one, this slide is me with some of the migraine.com team members at the Miles for Migraine race last October, and Dr. Young is in there. There's some docs from Jefferson. He had a much better time than I did. Race time. I just recently got to interview Bellamy Young, who plays First Lady on Scandal. So that was really a kind of cool thing that has come out of this for me. And so there are actually magazines out there, not self-promoting at all. Please take them. She was wonderful, and it was very cool. And then this was just taken 2 days ago. Migraine.com is headquartered here in Philly. Marcia, who's in the back, is right there. Our parent company, Health Union, has almost 22 specific disease sites, so like Hep C, asthma, multiple sclerosis, those are just a few, but they got us all together to, we all work online, and it was wonderful to see people that you've known for years and just getting together. So I really try hard, and you know what, tomorrow I'm probably gonna have a letdown migraine, and that's okay, because this is really important to me, and so try to, that in any way, shape, or form that you can. And I think just even being a part of this today is showing that you are living your life with migraine disease. So there's just some resources, and I believe, Shirley, there's a resource list out in the hall somewhere, because some others were talking about that. This is just very, about the survey. You can get more info, Miles for Migraine, obviously, and then my new blog. I swear I'm not trying to self-promote, but I really just feel strongly about being involved, and so I really hope that you guys have learned some things this week or today, and want to go out and have a renewed, purpose for what you're going to do with your life living with migraine. Thank you.